Sunday, September 24th, 12:25 a.m. The pain from his injuries was very, very bad, but Eddie's thirst was rapidly becoming a serious problem in its own right. He couldn't stop fantasizing about the simple act of swallowing some cool, pleasant-tasting liquid. It was driving him mad. The best-case scenario, undoubtedly, would be a cold king can of Budweiser. The sort of cold that coaxes a flood of condensation that creates a puddle around the base of the can. Cold to the point of almost being slush. Just thinking of it made his arid throat clench like a fist. Oh, sweet Jesus, a cold beer. Was there ever anything finer? Worst case, a puddle of mud would do. Shit, yes, that would do just fine. There was a fair-sized puddle at the end of the driveway, still bloated from the recent rains. Eddie imagined, in great detail, how he might slink out of the pit and crawl over to that stagnant little pool on his hands and knees. He would plunge his face into its murky depths and suck the thick water down like it was Perrier. Paulson had not seen hide nor hair of Arlie since he'd been beaten stupid with his own cell phone. He was relatively sure that the murderous freak was taking a snooze somewhere in the house, but not completely. He might very well be standing just outside of the open garage door, waiting with a dullard's patience for his prey to scuttle out of its hidey hole and expose itself. Those teeth. His pain and thirst were stronger than his fear, though. Eddie had to get the fuck out of the pit and find help. If he didn't, he would eventually die of either thirst, infection, or Arlie would get him. It was time to have another go at escaping his prison. Eddie held his breath and listened hard, and he heard nothing but the crickets. Arlie was fast asleep, snoring away on Eddie's sagging couch, with his feet hanging over the arm and a throw pillow clutched to his chest for security. Deeply asleep. Maybe. You can do this. You have to do this. Outside of the garage, it was a bright, moonlit night, but the pit was draped in a blackness so absolute that Eddie couldn't see his hand in front of his face. He could only perceive the narrow gap between the bumper and the edge of the pit as a slice of charcoal gray that floated in the darkness above him. Cautiously, Eddie eased his good hand through that gap and into the open. Slowly. So slowly. He felt the cold, rough surface of the garage floor beneath his palm. He rubbed his palm against it and tried to control his breathing. I'll lick the dew off the goddamn grass and then into the truck I go. I'll start her up and peel out of here like lightning. There was a hushed footstep, somewhere very close in the deep gloom. The scrape of a shoe against the concrete. Eddie's wrist was suddenly encircled by a moist, fleshy vice. He shrieked and tried to jerk his arm back into the safety of the pit and almost dislocated his shoulder in the process. Arlie's grip was like iron. He's got me. He's got me. He's fucking got me. Fuck. Arlie can't sleep, mister. Arlie can't sleep at all. Arlie wants Binkle. His tone was calm, almost serene. At some point during the last few hours, Arlie's bellowing rage had cooled into a state of cold, narrow-eyed sadism. Eddie could feel it in his grip, thrumming beneath the giant's thick, dry skin like electricity. An out-of-control desire to hurt something, to inflict unbearable pain at his leisure. Eddie had been reduced to the role of a fly in the cruel hands of a troubled schoolboy. This is gonna be bad. God help me. Arlie, I don't know where Binkle is. I'm sorry. I don't know. But, he quickly added, trying to make his trembling croak sound bright and hopeful, I think I can maybe help you find him. Sure I can. The only thing is, I'm hurting pretty bad down here, buddy, and I'm really thirsty. So, if you just let me go and don't hurt me anymore, I'll help you find Binkle, okay? Promise. And then you can get some sleep. All you have to do is let me go, and then I'll get out of this pit and I can help you look, okay? There was a long, considering silence. Eddie stood awkwardly on one foot in the dark, his wrist compressed to the point of shattering, and he prayed. No, you can't find Binkle, dummy. Nobody can. Binkle's gone. There was a dark undercurrent of joviality in his voice, as if Arlie was amused by a private jest. Eddie began to shake. You can't say that, he whimpered, breathless. Come on, buddy, you can't say that. You know that he's around here somewhere, right? Sure he is. We'll find him together, you and me. Shut up, Arlie said, patiently, and bore down on Eddie's wrist with a few more pounds of pressure to illustrate his point. Down in the pit, Eddie writhed and bit down on a scream. Binkle's not here. He's not anywhere. Binkle's gone. Arlie killed Binkle. Arlie ripped Binkle's head off and put him in the garbage, and now he's gone. And you're a liar. No, how could I possibly know any of that? I wasn't lying, I just didn't know. You lied and you hit Arlie. Remember? You swear and you say the F word. You even said Arlie is bad, remember? No, you're bad, mister, and Arlie will bite. Eddie was yanked forward with tremendous force. His body jerked like a rag doll, and he hit the wall of the pit face first. His nose broke against the cement and gushed in an immediate geyser of blood that coursed, hot and salt, over his mouth and chin. Stars exploded into brilliant novas in the dark. An instant later, a viz made of razors and fire snapped shut on his forearm. Oh, holy fucking shit! Eddie screamed, and Arlie took a second bite in response. The agony was a raging tsunami that raced up his arm and slammed full force into his brain, drowning his brain in panic. Like magic, the handle of the screwdriver was suddenly clenched in the awkward three-fingered fist of his other hand, and Eddie was stabbing out into the shadows, stabbing and shrieking and crying hysterically. The gleaming point sank home. And Arlie roared. He released his grip, and Eddie collapsed. Ow, you dink! You stabbed Arlie in the face! Ow! The bites on Eddie's forearms leaked countless rivulets of hot blood onto the floor. He scrabbled around blindly for the dirty rags and used one as a tourniquet, tying it over the sleeve of his coveralls with his bad hand and his teeth. Fuck you, freak! You better believe I'll do it again. I'll put your fucking eye out next time. Remember that, you piece of shit! Arlie staggered away from the van, bawling incoherent threats and stamping his feet. Eddie crumpled around his arm and fought the urge to vomit. The sleeve of his coveralls was soaked through with his own blood, coppery and warm. Arlie bumped into the workbench and hollered, You can't hide under there and fight dirty like that, you chicken! Arlie will get you, he'll fix you good. A small object whizzed through the air just a few inches to the left of Eddie's temple. A split second later, the high tinny click of something metal striking cement buzzed painfully in his ear. Another projectile bounced off his shoulder, sharp and hard. Yet another ricocheted off a wall and struck him in the leg. They were bolts. Arlie had found the mason jar full of odd mixed bolts that Eddie kept on his workbench and was whipping them down into the pit, using them as makeshift artillery. Eddie curled into a protective ball and endured a seemingly endless rain of them. It hurt. Arlie had one hell of a pitching arm on him. Then came a hail of sockets from his socket set. They were followed by ball bearings, screws, spark plugs, anything on hand that was small, hard, and easy to throw into the narrow gap. Fuck you, asshole! Stop it! Leave me alone! Get away from me! There was a considering pause. Why? 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 Because you can't do this to people. That's fucking why. You freaking psycho. It's murder. So? There are laws that everyone has to live by in this world, idiot. You follow me? Not killing people is one of them. You can't do it.
Arlie don't care about laws. Arlie can do whatever he wants. Who's gonna stop him? It's just you and me out here, mister. There ain't no laws when no one is looking.
Eddie cradled his arm to his chest and began to sob. There would be no bargaining with this creature, and he was stupid to think otherwise. Arlie would do as he pleased until Eddie was finally dead. And that was that. You son of a bitch. You hellspawn piece of shit. You should have been aborted with a coat hanger. You should have never been born. Eddie didn't recognize his own voice. You know that? They should have scraped you out of your mother and flushed you down the drain. And good goddamn riddance. Eddie heard the garage door sliding shut, and his heart lurched. He mewled pitifully. No, don't close it. Don't close the door. It's pitch fucking black in here and I'm hurt, you bastard. I'm hurt. Don't you close that door on me. The heavy aluminum door slammed shut on Eddie's screams. Arlie went back into the house and took a massive shit on Eddie's bed. Feeling lighter and at least partially avenged now, the lumbering horror made himself a nest on the living room floor, and he fell asleep while watching old reruns of cartoons on Eddie's TV. Not long after Arlie began to snore, Eddie finally stopped screaming. Sunday, September 24th, 9:20 a.m. Paulson passed out from exhaustion just before dawn, curled up on the hard, cold floor of the pit like a dead thing. He awoke to the sound of the garage door being dragged open. Footsteps. And then crunching, chewing, slurping.
Arlie likes Captain Crunch, mister. But you got Frosted Flakes, and they're okay too.
Crunch, crunch, slurp.
I like milk a lot. Do you like milk?
Eddie wasn't feeling so great. He was feverish. His arm and ankle hurt wretchedly. All of his other numerous injuries paled in comparison. His tongue felt too thick for his mouth, and his throat was on fire. Eddie's poor throat felt the way his south-facing side yard often looked in the middle of August. Baked and dead, dried into an arid series of ridges and crevices. A no-man's land of dead grass and shimmering heat. And then there was this. Arlie had milk. White, cold, fresh, wet, nourishing milk. Eddie imagined it slipping down his parched throat like a cold wave of liquid bliss and whimpered. Sweet Christ above. Milk. Arlie, please, milk. Paulson's voice barely sounded human. Speaking was torture.
You sound like Cookie Monster. You want cookies, don't you, mister? And milk, right? You want milk.
He chuckled and continued scarfing down slopping wet breakfast cereal as Eddie struggled to hold in dry, acidic tears. Arlie wasn't going to give him any fucking milk. No, he would lure Eddie close, and then, well, Arlie would bite, and bite, and bite. Fuck you. You know I want some. I'm dying down here, don't you get it? I'm suffering from dehydration. Do you know what that is? Nope, Arlie grunted. There was the ring of a spoon being set down into an empty bowl, and then the rattling tinkle of a second helping being dumped into the bowl. More milk was poured, and the crunching and slurping recommenced. Oh, you motherfucker. You're gonna kill me with thirst. Is that it? Because you can't reach me? That's cowardly. You're a piece of shit coward, Arlie.
Don't know what that means neither. And Arlie don't care.
Crunch, crunch, slurp. Paulson heaved himself up into a sitting position, his back against the wall. He winced at the sight of the left sleeve of his coveralls. It was caked with stiff, maroon blood. Carefully, Eddie pushed up the crackling material and gasped at what he saw. His forearm was pitted deeply by two wide, ragged craters. Bone was exposed. The edges of the bites were lined with thick, frayed shreds of skin and torn muscle fiber. Small, yellow curds of fat had oozed out and dried into sickly flakes and scales on the surrounding skin. He couldn't close his left hand into a fist anymore. Attempting to do so resulted in a flare of ripping agony in the bite wounds and fluttering tremors in his fingers. Fucked me right the fuck up, didn't he? There was nothing on hand that Eddie could use to treat or dress the ugly, crescent-shaped holes in his arm. The oily rags were a poor choice. He could only carefully pull his sleeve back down and grit his teeth.
Hey, mister,
Arlie chirped, his voice muffled by cereal.
Maybe Arlie will give you a big bowl of cereal if you can tell him where Binkle is. Where's Binkle?
You tore the fucking thing's head off and tossed it in the garbage, Eddie croaked. Then you freaked out because it was gone and ate your own parents. Now you're trying to kill me. That's what happened to Binkle, you crazy fuck.
You talk too much. You talk and talk, but you don't say anything. You're a dummy.
Oh yeah? Well, how about this? I know where one of your G.I. Joe toys are. You lost it in the van. He's one of your favorite guys too, I bet. Silver-headed guy. What the fuck is his name? Come on, think, goddammit. Think. What the fuck is his name? Destro. I know where he is. The glowing eyes above him blinked in surprise.
Yeah?
Arlie's face darkened. He snarled.
You better not be lying, Dink. You better tell Arlie where he is right now.
It's in the van, asshole. Just slide open the side door and have a look around in the back. On the floor. You'll see it. Arlie scrambled to his feet, and the caravan's side door was violently slammed open. The van groaned and sank alarmingly beneath Arlie's weight. They didn't cart your giant ass around in the minivan very often, did they? Suspension would be shot all to hell. That's what the cargo van was for. You were the cargo. Arlie barked a high-pitched yelp of surprise and got down on his hands and knees beside the minivan. A thick, stubby-fingered hand waved Destro around for Eddie to see.
I found him! Destro! Destro!
There, I helped you find him. Now you owe me. How about this? Let me go.
Nope.
Why not? Why not, really? Just let me go. Eddie realized that he was pleading, but he couldn't stop himself. Hell, you could just stand back and let me get out of here. Any old time you want to. Why not? Just let me go. I'm in a bad way down here, and I need a hospital, Arlie.
Shut up. No. If Arlie lets you go, mister, you'll tell on him, and Arlie will get in trouble. The law, remember? You can't go. You can't ever go.
A pathetic, whining tirade against the unfairness of Arlie's decision rose in his throat and died on his swollen, blood-caked lips. Pleading would do no good. Instead, Eddie croaked. Okay, fine, whatever. Give me a big bowl of those Frosted Flakes then. You owe it to me. And pour in lots of milk.
No.
Why though? Eddie whispered. The tears were flowing fat little balls of precious moisture that stung as they rolled down his face. I found Destro for you, asshole. I need it. I'll die if I don't get it, Arlie. Arlie wants you to die, Arlie explained, patiently. It's taking too long. Hurry up and die already. Then fuck you! How's that? Fuck you! Eddie slashed at the air around him with his screwdriver and screamed profanities as loud as he could. It hurt his poor, withered throat terribly to do so, but it felt good too. Delirious with rage, he pointed at Arlie with the screwdriver and shouted, Your mom and dad were brother and sister, weren't they? Yeah, that's why you're all fucked up, you inbred cocksucker! How's that? How's that for you? How the fuck do you like that, retard? Arlie's grin abruptly disappeared. He bared his teeth and bounced up from the floor of the garage as if it were on springs. All 500 plus pounds of him, and he howled, Don't you say that! An instant later, he slammed into the side of the van like a charging bull. Whoomp! A window exploded in a shower of glass, and the heavy vehicle skidded several inches across the floor above him. Eddie shrieked. Don't you say that! Don't you say that! Don't you say that! Don't you! The vehicle rocked and swayed beneath the force of Arlie's blows. Fiberglass dented and shattered into jagged fragments. Howling like a missile siren, Arlie stooped down to seize hold of the rocker panel and frame, and he grunted and strained to deadlift the van off of the pit. Eddie watched with eyes like saucers as the tires smoothly rose 9 inches from the garage floor. 10, 11. He's gonna do it, holy Jesus, he's gonna throw the goddamn thing over. The screwdriver. Eddie lunged forward and tried to stab it into the back of Arlie's hand, but missed. Instead, the sharp edge slammed into the blunt tip of his finger and severed it almost completely. Arlie screamed and dropped the van like a hot stone. Eddie fell to the floor to avoid having the top of his head flattened by the exhaust pipe, and he landed tailbone first on a cluster of sockets. He screeched in pain and in triumph. How's your finger, asshole? Huh? I got you good, motherfucker. Yeah, fucking fuck you. Arlie's gigantic sneakers whomped around the garage in meaningless loops. He was unleashing a volley of raw, unearthly screams that threatened to blow the roof clean off. Tools, auto parts, and various other objects whizzed through the air. There was a tremendous crash as Arlie overturned the table saw, and another as the lathe was pulled free of its lag bolts and hurled to the floor. The last of the minivan's unbroken windows were shattered above him. The doors and panels were hammered into oblivion. A massive hand plunged into the gap at the front of the pit and clenched for Eddie's head. Come here, Dink. Come here and say that. Arlie will bite off your face. Paulson scrabbled out of reach and barked out a single gasp of dry, harsh laughter. Ha! You can't get me down here, can you? Can you? Fuck you, fat boy. Arlie will get you, mister. You hurt his finger. You hurt it a lot, you dink. Go ahead. Go ahead and try. Try all fucking day. Arlie burst into tears. He fled the garage. Eddie's thin, vicious screech floated after him. I got you this time, cocksucker. I fucking got you.